this. Thanks for joining this workshop. And if you have questions, I'm sure that that Wilson and his colleagues with PowerNotes will help you or will offer what they can. They're quite knowledgeable. That I learned about this technology, PowerNotes, probably about a year ago from another good friend in the industry, Jimmy Fleming, and I got a chance this last year to take a look at it more closely, and I'm very impressed with it as a writing teacher. I think it offers some things that I've not been able to really capture in my classrooms with my students in terms of helping students do research and then use that research in productive ways in their writing for the course. So I'm sure there's a few other things or many other things that this technology will allow teachers and students to be able to do together. But I'm gonna let Wilson describe all of that and his colleagues, and I'm gonna let him introduce himself and the technology and his colleagues, whoever may be joining us for this. And of course, if you have questions, I think you can feel free to ask, but I will let Wilson and his crew field those, and we'll just go from there, okay? But by the way, I should also say that there will be another 2 more of these workshops in the following days. Mostly that was due to allow folks in CISA who have different schedules to be able to tune in and take a look at this. But of course, if by the end of our time, if you still have some other questions or you still wanna do some more digging on this, you can join those ones as well for the next few days. So just so you know that. Okay, Wilson, go ahead and introduce yourself and the technology, and I'll let you take it over.
Great. Thank you, Asao. Thanks everyone for taking the time to join us here in this workshop to learn more about PowerNotes. I'm Wilson Su. I'm the founder of PowerNotes. Joining me on our side are Todd Russell and Jimmy Fleming. Both of them are business development leads here at PowerNotes. Todd is actually local in Phoenix, so I think he'll be visiting campus on a pretty regular basis, as will I. One of the things that I wanted to emphasize is that PowerNotes right now is free for ASU faculty, staff, and students. We just finalized the deal with ASU Scale U EdTech Accelerator. And so we'll be working with ASU, integrating it, getting it into folks across campus in the near future. I mean, it's available now. So if you just use your school email address to sign up for PowerNotes, you'll get free premium access. And I'll walk through what that means over the next several minutes. Anytime anyone has any questions, feel free to jump in. I think we have quite a few people on the line, so if it gets a little too rowdy, we might reserve questions for the end. But you know, if you do have questions, feel free to jump in for now. Just to give you a brief background of the company and why I started it, it's really based on my own personal experience with research and writing when I was in grad school. I was in law school here in Chicago, where we're based, and what I found that was there was a lot of research and writing, obviously in law school. A lot of the mechanics, however, a lot of the little things that, little processes that go around research and writing, like things like how to save information from digital sources, how to track all that stuff, how to organize it, how to reorganize it. Those were little steps that weren't necessarily explicitly taught when I was taught how to do research and writing. I think that, you know, people of a certain age are kind of assumed to know how to do those sorts of things. And while I think they can muddle their way through it, find their own ad hoc processes on how to do those things, it's something that they've struggled with. I struggled with it, trying to find an effective way to do that, read your content, understand it all, keep it all organized in a way that's as efficient as possible. And then how do you turn that then into writing? And so these are kind of things that I had to figure out on my own. I found out that a lot of my colleagues in law school were struggling with the same things. When we talked to undergraduates, a lot of them were struggling with those same things when they were doing their undergrad research. And so we started to build up, or I started to think about a product that could kind of alleviate these frustrations that I experienced. And it's a lot of the solution was based on my prior experience doing research and writing when I was an undergrad in the print days in the early 90s. And so a lot of the things that I used to use, things like note cards, you know, I had to transcribe everything onto note cards, put the citation information on the back, shuffle those note cards around, put myself in a position to write. Those are all things that I really enjoyed about using note cards back in the print days, kind of brought some of those concepts into kind of the digital age to build PowerNotes and what it is today. So we first built it really as something to help researchers with their research and writing, where we started selling it to institutions back in 2017. We're in about over 24 law schools right now and over a dozen undergrad institutions. And one of the things that I really enjoyed about working with schools is that they're very, and working closely with schools is that they're very good about providing us with feedback. And we work closely with a lot of these schools like Penn, Stanford, University of Tennessee, to really start to build additional features into PowerNotes to turn it from a researcher's tool into very much a teaching tool. So there are a lot of new features, features that we're going to continue to build in the future to really turn the product and get it into the curriculum so that teachers in writing programs can teach more effectively various aspects of the research and writing curriculum. We're working with ASU specifically on a lot of different things related to data, or that's, you know, one of the hopes of our relationship. And so we'll be dealing and working with a lot of your online programs, and particularly the ones that are associated with putting together data analytics based on what students are doing. That's something that's kind of untapped that we're trying to move forward with over the next year or so, and looking forward to any feedback that you guys can provide us from a product perspective. So with that said, I'm going to now share my screen. I'm going to actually stop my video, so it reduces the bandwidth that I'm using. I'm going to share my screen so that you can, I'll take you through kind of like a live demo here of the product. So right now what you're looking at is my browser. And so PowerNotes, the first part of PowerNotes is a browser extension. It works on Google Chrome and Firefox. And what it's designed to do, when we chose a browser extension so it could capture anything that you're viewing in your browser. So far, students have used PowerNotes on almost 30,000 domains. So, you know, JSTOR being a domain, New York Times being a domain. So really trying to get to a point where you can capture anything that you're viewing in your browser, whether it's from the open web or any of your academic databases, any PDF online or on your computer, any of your e-textbook platforms. The whole concept is allowing students or faculty to capture any material for the purposes of their research or note-taking, because it does work on your LMS as well, and then organize that material, track it, so that you can then do whatever you want to do with it, kind of the primary use case being research and writing. So once I have it installed on my browser, you'll see this sidebar on the right side that's going to track everything that I'm going to be capturing. And then here on the left, you'll see my browser content. So I'm on Credo Reference, which is one of your library databases that has kind of general information, kind of like a more authoritative Wikipedia. One of the things that we wanted to do with PowerNotes that we thought was a lot better than the ad hoc processes that a lot of students put together when they're saving information from online sources is to really improve that online reading experience. One of the things I really didn't like about doing research in digital format was that anytime I wanted to save something that I was viewing in my browser, I'd have to copy it, leave my browser, go to another document, whether it be a Google Doc or a Word doc, paste that information in there, come back. If I were diligent, I'm going to grab the citation or the URL so I can come back to that document. Again, leave it, paste it into my other document, come back, and that's just a very distracting process. Prevents you from reading thoroughly. You have to pause your research every time you want to save something. So that's one of the first things we wanted to eliminate with PowerNotes. So with PowerNotes enabled, if you want to save something, you just highlight it, and then this box is going to pop up. And so the box is part of PowerNotes. And at the top of the box, you'll see the name of the project that we're currently in. So we're just going to do a little highlighting demo. Below that, you'll see two topics, background and new topic. These topics are something that's part of a framework that we call progressive organization. It's something where we prompt the user, the researcher, to organize whatever they highlight as soon as they highlight it. One of the things that we found with digital research is that a lot of students are reading very passively. They're just copying and pasting information they think might be relevant for something at some point in the future. A lot of them can't even articulate why they're saving information. So they're just copying and pasting kind of blindly. We want them to do two things. First, start reading with a little more purpose. They're going to have a goal in mind when they're doing their research. We want them to then select a topic based on how what they just highlighted fits into that goal. And we're going to start out with generic topics because we don't know what they're going to write about. And a lot of students, when they start their research, they don't know what's going to be important yet. And so we're going to start them off with these generic topics and give them the flexibility to adjust those topics on the fly as they do more research, as they learn more. And I'll show you how that works over the next couple minutes. The second thing we wanted to accomplish with prompting them to organize everything right up front is that a lot of students, when they're copying and pasting material into the other document, that other document just grows and grows and grows and becomes large, unruly, disorganized. And when a student is done some portion of their research, they go to assess that document, they're overwhelmed by it. They don't know how to reorganize it. Reorganizing information in a word processing document is cumbersome, prone to error. It's just not what they were designed to do. And so we're going to prompt them to organize it right up front so they end up avoiding that whole, what we call the information dump, and have a nice organized outline and build that outline right off the bat. And I'll show you how that works as we start to gather some information. For now, I'm going to select background. As soon as you select the topic, the next thing it does is it prompts you to annotate what you just highlighted so you can take your notes. Once you've done that, you can just continue on reading. One of the things that we found in the literature to be kind of a best practice in the digital reading environment is annotation. And a lot of people in the field are really focusing on annotation to really improve that reading comprehension and retention in the digital space. But that said, it's really difficult to annotate things online. And so if you don't have a tool like this, how do you do those annotations? So again, you're typically stuck in annotating in a word processing document, leaving your source to do that. And that's probably the main reason why a lot of students, a lot of people don't annotate information that they find online. So again, with PowerNotes, it's really easy. It's pretty streamlined. You select your topic, you make your annotations, and then you just continue on reading. We want to do this all with as little distraction as possible. We even try to move your eyes a minimum distance possible for you to save your information so you can do it as efficiently as possible and then just continue on reading. Over here in the sidebar, I'll show you what we've been capturing. All of the highlighted content is in quotation marks, so you know it's not yours. Your annotations are in a separate field that you can always edit at any point in time. We automatically save a link back to the source, so you can always click on this, come back to the source at any point in the future, and it's all filed under the topic that you chose, in this case, background. It's also very easy to edit your topic names at any point in time. And then once you do edit a topic name, the next time you do highlight something, that is already edited. It's also very easy for you to add topics on the fly. So a lot of students, as they're doing more reading, as they're doing more research, will find that there's additional structure they need for how they want to organize things. So you can just click on this little add topic button, add your topic in line, again, drop that into your new topic, take your notes, continue on reading, and we've added that additional structure here in the sidebar so you can keep track of everything that you're doing. The next thing I want to show you is just jumping to another type of article. So this is The Atlantic. This is a news site on the open web. Works the same way. Again, you highlight material. I'll add a topic here called current events. Drop into my new topic, take my notes. One of the things that we do on the open web is, in addition to saving the URLs, we also capture citation information that's already in the metadata on the website. So you can access that information by clicking on this little gray quotation icon. It'll show you all the information that we're gathering just by you highlighting something. And all of this information is editable. We actually prompt students to edit it because a lot of times, you can't just trust technology to give you the right answer. There can be inaccuracies in the information that's getting pulled. You can make any edits that you want to any of these fields except for data access. Once you make edits, you can apply any of those edits to any highlights that you make on this page. Once you click Save to Sources, then we actually give you a visual indicator that you've done that checking. So that gray quotation icon will turn green, letting you know that you've checked the citation information on the site. It's good to go. That checking is retroactive, so anything you highlight before you do that checking, it changes all of that citation information. It also changes everything going forward. So you only have to do it really once per website on the open web. Now I'm going to jump over to another type of document. So this is JSTOR. So this is one of your academic databases. It's PDF driven. Just to show you how it works on PDF, it actually works the exact same way. When you do highlight something, again, it'll show you the categories that you defined, again, to organize your research. You can save it into any of your categories, take your notes. We do handle citation information differently on PDFs and any of your academic databases. Since there's no metadata, what we're going to do instead, at least for now, is just give you a field where you can copy and paste the citation or type it in if you're doing it manually. Most of the academic databases give you options for citation and format. So I'm going to grab the one for JSTOR. I'll grab APA. I'll paste it into here. I can also edit this. A lot of times, again, the databases don't give you accurate citations. And you can click Save to Sources again. The next time you do highlight something, that information, that citation will already be there for you. Again, you can edit it going forward. One of the things I do want to point out on PDFs that we do also feature, it's one of our most popular features, which is we actually have an integrated OCR feature. A lot of times students will come across PDFs either on the web or in one of their databases that's older. It'll be scanned. It doesn't have a text layer. They can't copy and paste from it. They can't highlight anything on it. A lot of times students will see that and just skip that article, even if it's relevant to what they're researching. And they're skipping it because it's difficult to use. So what we'll do instead is we'll detect that that PDF doesn't have a text layer. We'll prompt them to process it on our server. They'll click a little button. It'll run a little process on our server that OCRs, adds a text layer to that PDF, prompts the user then to save it to their computer. Once they save it to the computer, they can open it and then highlight on it and use PowerNotes just like a more modern PDF. A couple other features here in the sidebar is at any point in time, along the lines of trying to really facilitate annotation, is you can add any notes, personal notes that are not associated with an outside source at any point in time. There's these little plus icons that are next to each topic. And you click on one, it'll open up a blank text box where you can type in whatever you want. A lot of times at this stage of their research, students will have questions they might want to ask their professor. They can memorialize them here. A lot of times they'll have ideas on how they, arguments they might want to make or things they might want to introduce in their paper later on. They can add those here as well. The whole point is we wanted to let the student really take as many notes as they want. put down any concepts that they want without ever leaving their research environment. Another quick feature is the ability to bookmark anything. So there's a little bookmark icon here. When you're on a page you want to bookmark, you just click on it. It gives you what I think is a little more intentional of a bookmark rather than adding this page to your browser bookmarks, which are typically disorganized mix of personal, professional, and academic bookmarks that can easily get forgotten. This is a more intentional bookmark if you're adding it immediately to the project that you're working on, so you at least know what project it's associated with. And it also allows you to annotate it really easily so that when you come back to it, you can jump right back into doing your research. I'm going to pause real quick because I'm going to transition now from the research aspect and the capture aspect of PowerNotes into the outline where you'll be able to do things like reorganize all your information. So as I do that, I'm going to pause. Any questions, feel free to jump in. I'm going to click on the project outline here, and that'll take you to our web app. All right, so here you'll see all of the same information that was in the sidebar, but it's on its own page. And this is in the PowerNotes, on the PowerNotes website. You can access this information from any computer, any device, anywhere. It's all in the cloud. So all you need to do if you're using like a campus computer, is just go to powernotes.com, log in with your credentials, and then this information will all be here for you to then work on. Here is where we really wanted to build an interface to facilitate one of the things that I think got lost most in the transition from print sources to digital sources, and that was the organizational piece. When I was first doing digital research, I was doing the copy and paste method, had this long-running document of things that I copied and pasted from the research, and then I was kind of left with, okay, what do I do with all this information now? A lot of students will see that, be overwhelmed, and just start writing because, again, it's not easy to reorganize information in a word processing document. If you're going to do that, you're forced to copy and paste stuff around, again, which is a pain and can lead to errors. So here we wanted to build an interface that was designed on a technology that I thought was really good for reorganization, which is the note cards and the print days. And so each of these pieces of research are basically a digital note card that you can just drag and drop around to reorganize your information at any point in time, and just like a note card, and you would with a print note card before things went digital. And that said, like, I don't think anyone uses the note cards anymore, at least not students. So this is a way to really kind of bridge that gap, give them a tool that was really designed for reorganization in today's kind of modern framework. You can also, there's also a menu associated with each card that lets you either delete a card that's no longer relevant or move it into another topic. So you can move it a longer distance and move it quickly, just because it's difficult to drag and drop things across a long distance. You can also copy it into either the same project to make a duplicate or into another project, however you want to do that, depending on, if you just put in here accidentally, or you have another paper that's kind of running concurrently that might have a similar concept. You also have the ability to do all of those things with entire topics. So you can delete the entire topic, move the entire topic into another project, or copy the entire topic into another project. A lot of students use this for capstone projects where they have a lot of mini projects that build up into a larger final project. They can just combine everything kind of that way. There's also a topic manager that will list all your topics and allow you to reorganize and reorder your topics on a larger scale. So these are all my topics. I can just drag and drop my topics around to reorganize my topics, and everything in my outline moves around with it. You can also add topics here, delete topics, change colors associated with topics, pretty much anything you want to do to manipulate your information. There are also several download options. So if you click on the little export tab, you can download all your information into word processing documents. So when you're ready to write your paper or print out your outline for study purposes, you can download everything into that word processing document. I'll come back to that. There's also an Excel download, and this is where we really started working with writing programs at our partner schools on new features designed specifically for the classroom. And so the first Excel download that we designed, or we built, we didn't design it, University of Pennsylvania designed it for their curriculum, we call Topic Source. So what they wanted to do was to have an output that instead of having a linear outline, they would have a two-dimensional output into a spreadsheet format. And it's formatted in a very specific way to facilitate their literature review. And so what they would do in this sort of assignment, I'll give you a little example here. They'd start with a rubric for how to analyze articles. So this is it right here, how to analyze articles. They'd teach their students the rubric. They would have the students create a project in PowerNotes with the rubric, the items in the rubric as the topics. And then they would have the students then go out and do research, find several articles, analyze each article, identify each item in the rubric for each article. And then once they do that across several articles, come to this Excel download. And then it's going to format their information that they've gathered in a very specific way. And this is an example of that. So all of their topics or the items in the rubric will be across the first row. It can be any rubric. It doesn't have to be Penn's rubric. We have a lot of different schools using their own rubrics for this type of assignment. So the items in the rubric or the topics will be across the first row. And then all of their sources will be down the first column. And so all of the information that they found for each article that's responsive to each item in the rubric will be in the appropriate cell in the middle. What they'll tell the students to do is create a column on the right called analysis. If they're doing analysis, they're just going to summarize across the rows, fill in the column on the right. And then more importantly, they will create a row at the bottom called synthesis. And if they're doing synthesis, they're just going to summarize down the columns and fill out this row at the bottom. And that's something they would actually turn in as part of their assignment. What they found is that it was a lot more intuitive for students to understand analysis and synthesis, the difference between the two, using this kind of more visual two-dimensional format. And it gave them a practical way to then synthesize content across any number of sources. So that was something that we were really excited about. Since we built that for Penn, a lot of other schools started adopting it. Again, something that we're really appreciative of Penn for. So the next two, we have 3 Excel downloads. The second one is just the opposite of this. So instead of having the topics across the first row, you'll have the topics down the first column, and then you'll have the sources across the first row. That's just the way that a lot of our PhD students that use PowerNotes do their lit reviews. So we built that for them. And then we had the third Excel download is formatted specifically for law schools that do something called a case map. And it's just formatted such that all their sources are in the first column. Their citations are in the second column. The third column is all of the topics that they chose. Fourth column is all their notes, and the fifth column is all the quotations. So those are some of the download features. We also have an RAS download that just exports all the source information in a format that can be imported into a Zotero, RefWorks, EndNote, so that then a student can then generate a bibliography using those tools. Another thing I want to point your attention to is something that's newer and something that's particularly interesting, probably for kind of the new environment of a lot of like online teaching, which is our sharing feature. And it's really built to provide students with early, continuous and detailed feedback on the work that they're doing, whether or not they're in class or remote. And so once you initiate a share, so a student can share any of their projects with anyone else. When they click on share, they'll be able to enter the email address of the person that they're sharing it with here. And once they share it with them, they will be able to see a couple different views. And I'll show you a side-by-side of a sharer and a sharee. So on the left here is the original researcher's information. It's the same project outline view that you saw prior to this in the demo. Here, you'll see again all of their information in outline format, but you'll see that here I've already added several comments. And so if you have comments, you can share your project with multiple people. So a lot of times you can share it with peers, a TA, a professor. When you do have comments, you can click on the little comment link. It'll show you all the comments that were made on this project or on that particular card. For instance, I'll open this comment here at the top for both of the sharer and the sharee. So on the right side, you'll see the person that they share it with. The difference here being is you have this big purple banner letting you know that this is a shared project. It's not yours, and that you can only view, comment on, and download this project. So when you actually go into the content, I can make any comments that I want to, and then things are going to get pushed real time to the person that shared the project. They can comment right back, and then it's going to get pushed real time to the person that they shared it with. So you can have live conversations in real time. We built that specifically for schools that wanted to do in-class peer review, where they break up their class into small groups. They'll share their projects with each other, and the professor can kind of sit on top and moderate, and they'll just kind of comment back and forth on any piece of research in the outline. You can also make project level comments. As you can see here, there's a little link at the top that says, or a little drop down at the top that says project level comments, and you can make comments on things that are not specifically tied to a piece of research. So this is something that we rolled out this spring, and people have just started using it. They'll start to use it more next semester. We've already have a lot of enhancements that we've been asked to do based on people's schools' usage of this feature already. They'll start to roll out over the summer. Jumping back into the project outline, just another quick feature that I want to show you. It's another feature that we worked on with a school, which is, it's actually not a feature, more of a technique. It's a technique we call outline transformations. It's basically a way for a researcher to transform information in one outline into a completely different outline structure. So as you can see here, if you look at the structure I have, fairly indicative of how like a junior researcher, a novice would put together an organizational framework based on how, what they're coming up with during the research process, but it's probably not how their paper is going to be structured. There's no rhetorical structure here. So how can you make that transition? How do you turn this information into something that can more easily be translated into that first draft? Because that's the most difficult part of the research and writing process, that transition from research to writing for the vast majority of students. So we came up with the technique using the PowerNotes interface to be able to basically create a whole nother outline beneath this outline, and then we'll use the PowerNotes interface to repurpose the information from the old research outline into that writing outline. I'll do a quick kind of generic example here, but I think you'll get the point. Again, any questions, feel free to jump in. You can either chat them in or just unmute yourself and just ask them. So I've added a whole separate outline here below my current outline, and then I can use the PowerNotes interface to repurpose information from being in my research outline and putting it into my writing outline. Just going to do it quickly. Hopefully a student would take longer to do this. I've seen people teach this using a number of Word documents, open up 3 Word documents and start copying and pasting stuff back and forth. Again, that's really cumbersome. This is just a cleaner way to do it from a mechanical perspective. So again, you can continue to drag and drop stuff around to reorganize information. You still have the ability to open up blank note cards to, in this case, probably start writing, adding, intro sentences. Start adding transitions, or if you have like primary research, you're doing interviews, you can add those in as well. These are just really general kind of blank note cards that you can add whatever you want, place them wherever you want, get closer to writing that first draft. When you're ready to go to that first draft, you can easily go to that Word download, which can be open in Word or Google Docs, and they'll have all of that information there with a lot of white space. Students tend to like to want to write around things. Again, all of these links back to the sources are still here, and they can then kind of reformat things, write in between things, transition to that first draft a lot easier. I mean, that's most of the demo. I gotta hold on a chat here. All right, do you have an option for multiple researcher students to collaborate on a project? This would be more than sharing. They'll be able to edit the project together. Yes, so there is a way to do it today, which is a hack. So students found a way to do it without us actually supporting it. We actually have a blog post here. So our blog is the primary way we provide support to both our students and our faculty. There's 2 sections here. One's a help section for the students, and then there's an educator section for faculty. In the educator section, there's lesson plans and a bunch of instructional support materials that we can go into later. But in the help section, there is a blog post called Tips, Tricks, and Hacks, and there's a way that students hack collaboration where they basically just shared credentials to a project. When everyone logged into the same project, they were able to do exactly what you just said. Pull information, do research simultaneously, put it into the same outline, then be able to jointly reorganize that outline. This blog post is specifically around how to do that responsibly, so that they're not sharing their credentials to their actual projects. We tell them to create another project because every person that signs up for PowerNotes gets 1 free project. They can use that for the collaboration project without sharing their credentials for their main accounts. And do it that way. That said, one of the things that we're going to be working on starting in a couple weeks is official support for collaboration. So students will not have to do this hack anymore. We anticipate it'll be done by probably early to mid-summer. So students will be able to, kind of using the same sharing interface here, they'll be able to share and collaborate, or have a share and have collaborators that have additional permissions than just a share permission. So they'll be able to do more than just provide feedback, but actually put new content into the outline. So that's going to be coming. Good question, though. Any other questions, thoughts? I mean, that's most of the demo. Oh, hold on 1 second here. I don't know if this is a new thing. I'm excited to try PowerNotes. When is the ASU license finalized? So we're in a kind of a pilot phase right now based on the work we're doing with Scale U. So you're going to have it and be able to use it at least through the end of this year, the calendar year, so through the fall, in which time we'll be working on a license. Does that answer your question? All right. How does this work with video transcripts such as TED Talk? So it works on, so if the website does a transcription or has a transcription of the video, whatever's in the video, most likely PowerNotes will work on that transcription. So, we've tried it on several transcription sites. It's tended to work. That said, we haven't tried it on all of them. So one of the things that we do really try to promote is the use of our feedback button. So anytime you're on a site that doesn't work, just click on this little feedback button. It'll open up a dialog where it'll pre-populate the URL. Say something doesn't work, it can't capture something, whatever it is. Submit it. We'll get it to work over the next day or two. That's how we cover new sites. But that said, if the site already has a transcription, like the video is on one side, the transcription on the other, it'll most likely work there. If it doesn't, submit the feedback. We'll get it to work. One of the things that we're doing right now is more multimodal. Right now, what we capture is just text. But we're working on more multimodal capture. Images is the next thing that's coming. We're working on that right now. It'll be ready in a couple of weeks. And then video and those sorts of things are going to be after that. And so there might come a time where we're going to be doing our own transcription or allow you to annotate within a video. Those things are all on our roadmap. Right now we're going to work on or rely on websites that do the video transcription for us and allowing you to highlight the transcription. Yeah, so one of the things, the question is, I signed up using my ASU email account and only see one free project available. The reason you do that is because one of the things that we have to do is verify that you are in fact an ASU person. So as soon as you signed up, we sent an email to that email address you used to sign up. Once you click on the verification link in that email, then you'll have the unlimited projects. Any other questions or thoughts? So one of the things that we also do provide, and certainly for ASU, is more consultative services. We've worked with a lot of schools to integrate PowerNotes into their curriculum. And we have a lot of experience seeing what kind of assignments really work well for that integration. So, if anyone has any questions, wants some additional help in identifying the best places to introduce PowerNotes in their class, we're more than happy to do that. Jimmy Fleming, who's on the line here, someone that's been on our team, has been in the English composition space for a long time now. He's well versed in how PowerNotes has been used in these other classes and can definitely bring that experience to bear to assist anyone that's looking to find the right spot to introduce PowerNotes, integrate into their curriculum, and get it in front of their students. Okay, the next question I see here is, could you share the examples you use about the lit review? Yeah, so one of the things that we can, go ahead, I hear someone talking.
Well, my son, he's actually the tall, blonde, 6'6" dude. He came up with a friend to go to Tuzigoot. He grew up here. And then I'm just on an ASU meeting. Well, it's Zoom. It's just an extra thing, but it's good to see you. I like her shoes.
I don't think that was a question.
Yeah, I don't think that was a question for me. But yeah, we can share the examples. We can send you a link or a document with a couple of those examples. We have a couple already kind of prepared. And we'll email them to Asao, and then I don't know if there's a good way for him to distribute it to the folks that were on the call.
Let me think. I can, if folks want to contact me to make sure they get those things, I can certainly relay those out, or I may just send them out to everyone. We'll see how that works out. But if you're concerned, those of you who want the materials are concerned, just send me an email, and it'll stay on my radar. So I make sure that you get it.
I see another question here. Could you import, export project/cards across different accounts? Right now, no. You can import and export them into different projects in your own account. If you're thinking about doing it across to another person's account. That's probably something we can do. I'm just thinking about if we can kind of do that already right now. I don't think we can do that right now, but that's certainly something we can put on the radar map, on our product roadmap. Any other questions or thoughts?
Yeah, I have a question about, you said that this works with the LMS we have. So how does this function like within Canvas?
So it's not within Canvas. So the way it works with Canvas right now is that because it's a browser extension, if Canvas is what you're browsing, you can capture whatever you want in Canvas. And so what students use this for, we didn't even know, we didn't build this for this purpose, but students have used PowerNotes to kind of build study guides for their non-research and writing classes. So for instance, if you're in like a history class or something, you have digital text, you might want to capture material from the text, material from the professor that they put in the syllabus in Canvas. You can just, again, highlight the stuff in Canvas, organize it, annotate it, and pull in materials from all different sources, whether it's even like if you Google stuff because you're confused about something, you can pull in whatever you Google. Basically, you build your own personal outline to study from, and that's what students have used it for. So when I say it works on Canvas, it works in pulling in material and content from Canvas without having like a Canvas-specific integration. That said, this summer, we're going to be working on specific LMS integrations to do things for professors. For instance, we have professors that want to be able to create a project. So say they're doing like a lit review assignment or rhetorical analysis assignment. They have a rubric. They don't want to tell their students to create a project, add these items in there as topics for the rubric. The professor will soon be able to just do that, create one project, add the rubric themselves, and then just push it out to all their students. That would be through one of our LMS integrations that we're going to be building this summer. Stuff like that, we're going to be doing a lot of this summer. So again, we're looking for our faculty users to give us some good feedback on what they would like to do through the LMS with PowerNotes. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Yep. All right. Another question. Blah, blah, blah. Yeah, we've heard research methods at ASU would be a great class to use PowerNotes. So thank you for pointing that out. Will this work pulling from a Dropbox folder? That's a great question. That's something, again, it's going to come after our LMS integrations, but we're going to start integrating with a lot of different products. Cloud storage being one of them, Dropbox being, the preeminent cloud storage out there for a lot of people. And so right now, we don't do anything specific with Dropbox, but that is something that we're going to be working on. Any other questions or thoughts? All right, we are available. So, I mean, Jimmy put his information out there. I'm going to put up, there you go, Todd and mine are out there now. Feel free to reach out to us if you have any questions. Feel free to use the product. Our blog, which is blog.powernotes.com, is where you'll find the majority of the support materials. If you're considering it for your classroom and you want some help with integration into your curriculum, feel free to reach out. That's something we love doing. All right.
Thank you very much.
Anything else?
Yes. Yeah, thank you very much, Wilson. I appreciate your and your colleagues' time. If anyone has questions about this, one thing I might suggest is you might log back in at the Wednesday or Thursday workshop to ask your questions.
Yep.
So particularly if you want to, in the meantime, go ahead and test out and try out the technology yourself on today and tomorrow. It might give you a little bit of time to just sort of see what it might do for you and your students. And then it probably give you a better sense of like other questions you might have just in case in terms of your own applications. Again, thank you so much. And one of the things I'll just say in parting, one of the things I really like about this as a teacher, what I like about this technology is the way it focuses students' attentions on the process of research and being more purposeful about what bits of information and where they get it and what they're doing with that stuff and how it can help them serve their own purposes in their research and their writing practices. Not simply sort of gathering a bunch of text and lumping it into a sort of digital folder, but instead thinking about those resources a bit more critically, even if it's just in terms of like identifying or categorizing information, because that's really like the first or second step in research, right? We categorize the information we get, and we decide what we can do with that information. So really good stuff. Thank you so much, Wilson, and we'll look forward to Wednesday and Thursday's workshops this weekend. Folks who might test it out in the meantime before those workshops and try out, and then come back with perhaps with some pointed questions about the technology itself.
Great. Thank you, Asao.
Yeah, thank you. And otherwise, I hope everyone has a great rest of your day, and we'll talk to you all again soon.
All right. Take care. Take care, everyone.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.